Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as a group CEO, Treasury Consulting. But today, my deliberations is not as a group CEO, rather, my deliberations is as per LLB student. The very important thing which a lawyer has to do is to defend a client. Now, please be note that when I'm using a word defend a client, I mean to say defend the facts which are genuine, which are original, and which are untempered in nature. This is something I always wish to say. And when the lawyers defend their clients, then you either defend in the district court, which includes the Court of Sessions, you defend in the High Courts, or you defend in the Supreme Court of India. The higher you go, the higher the complexity. You need to understand the procedures, and more importantly, the pleadings would be more complicated. The level of complexity will rise. The very important thing as a lawyer, which we need to understand, is that as a law student, which we need to understand, is that in India, the law is divided into two forms. Now, one is known as the substantive law. Substantive law means the law on which the punishment is supposed to be given. Example, Indian Penal Code. Example, prevention of money laundering. Example, NDPS. Indian Evidence Act is also a kind of substantive law. Other is the procedural. Now, procedural means the procedure you would be taking to reach to the conclusion. Procedural law, according to me, is much complicated, is much subject to interpretation as compared to the substantive law. But having said that, we should be thankful to the help which the higher courts are providing, especially the Honorable Higher Courts and the Honorable Supreme Court of India, on time to time basis when they are sharing their interpretation about the law in public domain. And today, as we speak, 1st May 2023, we have variety of judgments which are available on the website of Honorable Delhi High Court. In fact, Honorable Supreme Court of India also on day-to-day basis upload the judgments on their website. Everything is complimentary. You just need to open the judgment, and if this ends up your area of interest, then you can download that judgment, take a print of that, and study this. Like my area of interest is definitely the PMLA, prevention of money laundering, anti-corruption, CBI, NDPS, forensic evidence, and criminal. I always, try and move in this part of the game. I also divide the law into two forms. One is known as the precedent law, and one is known as the stat law. By precedent law, I mean to say that a law which is very well defined, which is very well interpreted, which is very well articulated by the higher courts. Which means that as we speak, in this part of the law, there is hardly any interpretation issue. Example, the default bail, 167, CRPC 167. Example, summoning of witness evidences, CRPC 311. Example, the criminal complaint under CRPC 156.3. Example, the charge sheet 154. FIR, first information report 154. Example, charge sheet 173, and variety of those topics. Example, framing of charge in case of In case of tribal by magistrate covering the warrant cases, which is 239, read with 240. In case of court of session, read with 228 and 227. There are many other sections of CRPC which are very well defined, but there are few sections also where we are having a bit of interpretation issue. And yes, Honorable Supreme Court and higher courts on time to time basis are sharing their view, their opinion in the form of judgments as far as the interpretation issue is concerned. Other thing is the stat law. Stat law means a law, basically the text which has been written by the legislature. You can easily see the text in bare acts. You can see the acts in the commentary. Like being a LLB student, my preferred way is to look at the bare act, number one, then look at the commentary, number two, and number three. Once both step number one and step number two is done, then download the judgment, especially from Supreme Court and High Court. Take a print of that and then see their opinion about that. Example, I remember around a couple of months ago when I studied 156, CRPC 156, that when you are filing a criminal complaint directly to the concerned magistrate, then I studied this in bare act first. And I was having few interpretation issue. I kept it open. Then I studied the commentary. Many of the interpretation issues resolved, but still few left at that given point of time. Then I downloaded almost 25 judgments from Honorable Supreme Court and the respective High Courts of India. In a time-framed manner, took the print of that, studied one by one. Now I am having absolute clarity how 156.3 works. Rather, there are many things which can't be easily find out in the books, but you can easily find in the judgments which are delivered by Honorable Supreme Court of India. And we are very fortunate that these judgments are very well available in the public domain. Nowadays, I am doing my studies in terms of charges, in terms of discharges. Example, like I said, 227, 228, CRPC. Probably read with 239, 240, the revisional power, which is 397, 398, read with 399, 400, and 401. Everything, first I am studying the bare act, followed by the commentary, and then I am checking this with the judgments which are provided by Honorable Supreme Court of India and Honorable High Courts of India. I strongly feel that if we are reading the judgments, then we are doing a wonderful job. I'll show you that this is the judgment copy which I downloaded today. It covers CRPC 301, and CRPC 301 is about the public prosecutor. As you're aware that the prosecution of the criminal cases is vested with the public prosecutor, and you have to read CRPC 25, read with 2 to 5 also. There are various roles and responsibilities of public prosecutor. Of course, if you read the bare act, you get a bit of it. If you read the commentary, you get a little more than the bare act. But if you wish to clearly understand the roles and responsibility in a criminal case, especially when the case is triable in a court of session, and under revisional jurisdiction, which is 397, read with 398, 399, 400, and 401, and especially when it is referred to the Court of Sessions from the higher court, then the judgments will give you something which I doubt you would easily be able to find in the internet. As a lawyer, as a LLB student, whenever I study any law, whether this is PMLA, whether this is forensic evidence, whether this is FIR, whether this is charge sheet, whether this is summoning, the warrant case, the witness, the defense witness, the prosecution witness, and sometimes the court witness also. The cross-examination, the re-examination, re-investigation, CBI investigation, the power of the High Court to grant CBI investigation, the power of the High Court to offer inquiry in terms of 367 CRPC, and the list is very long. I first tried to see the opinion of Supreme Court and respective higher courts, that what are their opinion about that. And this forms my basis about anything which I'm reading in the law. Like today, if I speak that PMLA, prevention of money laundering, prevention of money laundering is one of the most hottest topic in India. Without entering into any political controversy, we know that why it is one of the hottest topic in India nowadays. And I'm having an interpretation issue as far as the section 3 of PMLA is concerned. Because in section 3 of the PMLA, there are 6 ways the money laundering has been defined, But unfortunately, the definition of the money laundering with reference to the tax havens, specifically speaking, the tax haven, the offshore tax havens, the offshore banking units, the private banking, the investment banking, this is not defined. I downloaded various judgments, and in this various judgment, the Enforcement Directorate is saying Section 3, Section 4, read with the bail provision, which is Section 45, the special courts which are constituted, Section 43, the power of the special courts, Section 44, and so on and so forth. But having said that, in the PMLA Act, the very important thing which I'm even currently scrutinizing and currently able to find out the linking of prevention of money laundering. Specifically speaking, linking of money laundering with the tax havens. That's very important. I know that when we listen tax haven, our mind goes in a negative direction. No, not all tax havens are illegal in nature. Guys, honestly speaking, tax havens were defined, described, and formed to save the taxes. Example, the original logic behind the tax haven was that if a country is charging exorbitant taxes, which the corporates are finding it difficult, which the corporates are finding unrealistic in nature, or they are finding something which should not be there, then there are jurisdictions which are available where you can create a fund structure, you can create a corporate structure, you can route your R&D, you can route your patents or IPR, and you can save the taxes. This was the original motto of the tax havens, original motto. But unfortunately, in the last 2 to 3 decades, the motto has completely changed. Now, tax haven means to launder the money, not to pay any taxes, to convert the black money into white money, siphoning of the fund, using of the trade finance facilities of the banks to create fake invoices, using of the trade finance facilities of the banks, creating, via the shell companies, creation of fake sales, fake revenue. Now this is what tax haven is all about as we speak. But this all which I said is very concrete in nature. This all I said is something which has to be defined in a law, which has to be mentioned in a very eloquent manner, in a very explicit manner. And probably the banking is changing very fast. Like there are, I remember in 2007, when I started my career in treasury function, the concept of private banking was niche. It was there. I'm not saying it was not there. It was very, very niche concept. Not every bank was offering the private banking. In fact, I remember in 2007 finding a good article or a good presentation about a private banking. It was like earning a Nobel Prize. But today, if you go to Singapore, you go to Hong Kong, you go to Dubai, you can easily see that in Asia itself, the private banking is flourishing. Rather, unfortunately speaking, there are few names who should not granted the license of the private banking. They are even granted the license of the private banking. Please be note that private banking is a very technical concept. And please don't expect that I am going to be explaining the private banking in a 10 to 15 minutes video. But having said that, private banking play a pivotal role as far as the money laundering is concerned. In one MDB scandal, one Malaysia Development Board, which is Sovereign Wealth Fund of Malaysia, a very well-known scandal in the world of financial market. It was on paper 10 billion scandal, but unofficially much more than that. In this scandal, the world first time exposed to the dark secrets of the private banking. I bought both the books, The Blue Whale of 1MDB scandal. I downloaded and printed many documents about the 1MDB from the internet, and many documents I found out very interesting also. And I'm still investigating this case, scrutinizing. But when I see the PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering, the whole, the framework of 1MDB scandal, how the big banks end up having the siphoning the money with the help of the private bank, everything is missing. Henceforth, lot of interpretation issues. Henceforth, lot of things which needs to be defined. Henceforth, I strongly feel that as a law student or probably as a lawyer in near future, if any PMLA case is there, then I will definitely will have a very different opinion what we have in the stat. And having said that, I'm telling you, probably in 2 years or 3 years down the time, the way banking is changing, the way amalgamations are happening, like very recently, Credit Suisse is amalgamated with UBS. And according to the public information, both Credit Suisse and UBS are cutting thousands of jobs. This information is on Google. You check yourself, please. You will see that the private banking in another 2 to 3 years, probably 4 to 5 years, in a very safest way, would be much more what it is today. You will have even that instruments in the private banking which you will fail to understand. And just to conclude my video, I would like to let you know that in the world of investment banking, people feel that everything about the investment banking is on the Google. This is what their perception is. I'm telling you, less than 1% of the component of the investment banking is on the Google. Less than 1%. Majority of the top instruments of the investment banking are not on the Google. How to draft investment banking agreement and all these, this is not on the Google. Anyways, more videos to come. I sincerely thanks High Court, Honorable Supreme Court, for making such a wonderful judgment. I am definitely thank you to both of them. Thank you. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew my personal number, +91 9899 242 978. Let me repeat, +91 9899 242 978.